The UCT Black Academic Caucus says it strongly condemns the university's decision to use police action against students on campus overnight. It also condemns the arrest of student protesters. Let's get a bit more detail on this. We're joined by UCT Associate Professor at the Centre for Film and Media Studies, Adam Haupt, who is actually speaking on behalf of the Black Academics Caucus. And Adam, welcome to you. Thanks very much for coming into our Cape Town studios. Just give us a bit more detail, will you, on your response to the police action on campus overnight and this morning.
Thanks for inviting me, Joanne. Members of the Black Academic Caucus were actually present last night at Bremner. By the time I got there, the cops were already there. They were in riot gear. Our understanding was that the students were not going to resist arrest. If they were going to be arrested, they were going to go peacefully. That is actually what eventually happened, closer to midnight, after 11. Before that, the cops came in. At one point, a hippo came in, revving its engine, stopping outside the students, scaring them, clear intimidation tactics. They got into riot gear. We went over to them and said, these students are not going to resist arrest. They don't pose a threat. They're not armed. Please, this show of force is perhaps, it's overhanded, it's unnecessary. They were ready for war. This is the way in which they spoke. They weren't going to listen to us. They claimed that they had a mandate from UCT management to deal with the situation, implying by force. And essentially, when the confrontation did go down, students basically got up calmly, one by one. They got into the police vans. They didn't arrest everybody. Basically, they handpicked. They went upstairs into Mafeje room. The room was blockaded at some point, I understand. They blocked journalists from actually witnessing what was happening. Raisa Parther was one of those journalists. So they couldn't see what was happening. Students then told us that the room is being tear gassed. Students from the bottom, activists, threw water bottles up to deal with the situation. They then came out peacefully. There was no real issue. There was a lot of singing and cheering as people got into the hippo and the various police vans. The van could have left. The hippo could have left. It was actually on its way out, away from Bremner, when for some reason it decided to make a U-turn and come back. So our conclusion is that, if you were nothing was stopping you from leaving the scene. Why did you come back? Were you looking for a confrontation? They basically stopped outside of Bremner again, and students gathered around, and that's when shots started being fired, and there was pandemonium, there was chaos. These are the visuals that you saw. I tried to get an explanation from one.
In here, UCT has said all it did was remove those students. It didn't actually arrest them.
I see. At that point, South African Police Service, their response to us was, we're arresting the students. We asked, which police station are you taking them from? They said they didn't know yet. They were going to take their cue from UCT management. That's as much as we knew at the time. I know that later the evening they were released, and I believe no charges were brought against them. But this morning, the provocation last night on the part of SAPS, I think basically escalated the situation. They had the opportunity to actually diffuse the situation. They escalated it, and I think this is what we are seeing this morning. Student action continues. The university shut down. Further arrests have now been made. I think the way SAPS as well as the UCT management handled it is the opposite of what we saw at Wits University with Professor Adam Habib. The professor going out, literally humbling himself, sitting on the floor with activists, having discussions. Yes, there were disagreements. Not everybody agrees with the professor on how the situation is being handled and how he's engaging students, but at least there was the willingness to engage, the humility to come out and speak. I think the immediate response on the part of UCT management was get the court order and get police in. I don't think this makes for good. This doesn't make for building trust. It doesn't. It's not. It's bad PR for the university. I think it's an opportunity
issues, if I may come in there, issues of transformation are now being fudged. They're now being conflated with issues of criminality on that particular campus. Are students' grievances legitimate?
Look, you know that nationally the issue of fees is a big problem. And university is certainly not one of the cheapest institutions in the country. And you know, if other universities are raising this issue, it certainly is an issue at UCT. I think what could have happened was management could have stepped in and said, let's have a dialogue about this, let's stand together and pressure the minister, let's speak to students at other universities in other countries, let's stand together and have this issue addressed at the level of government. What it has now become is it's a one-on-one between individuals in the same institution when we should be standing together. And so it's an opportunity lost. The well is now being poisoned. There's a great deal of animosity and distrust between students, staff and management. Staff members like myself are, we're caught between two polarities here. We care about the institution, we'd like to do research, we'd like to educate, but at the same time, of course, the students are important. The university wouldn't be there if it were not for the students. We care about the students as individuals. I want to know how the parents feel seeing this footage, knowing that the kids might actually be on the scene.
Let's wrap up with this. We know that this is not something new. The Rhodes Must Fall campaign set into being all of these concerns that were raised, and clearly student anger about the lack of transformation on many levels at universities. UCT was one of those fingered as the least transformed in certain ways, in terms of staff complements, in terms of teaching methods and so on. Have you, as an associate professor at UCT, seen any commitment to making a change since the Rhodes Must Fall campaign earlier this year?
Well, look, UCT is a large organization like any other, and it's hard to make very general claims about the entire institution. What I've seen is very particular interest groups being quite sincere about the attempts to engage students and engage the concerns. The Black Academic Caucus has support not just on the part of black staff members, but white staff members as well, who obviously are not members but support our objectives. So it's a hit and miss, like as with any organization. There are going to be key contradictions, and so since RMF, I think a great deal of progress has been made. There's been a significant amount of dialogue, but now that progress is being undermined. We're seeing an erosion of a great deal of progress that has been made. Last night, the fears of staff members who were present, including the Dean of the Humanities faculty, our fear was that students could get hurt or even killed, right? Students themselves are saying this could become another Marikana. Why are we having this conversation at a public institution in a democracy? Why are we having that kind of conversation? Why is apartheid-era tactics being used on students who are exercising the right to protest? And it's constitutionally enshrined, in Section 16. Why are we having these kinds of conversations? Surely an institution like UCT, with the kind of quality leadership that it has, can be a bigger person and say, well, let's build on the progress. Let's not go into an adversarial encounter with students.
Very interesting to have your insights as an insider. Thank you so much for speaking to us. UCT Associate Professor at the Centre for Film and Media Studies, and of course representing the Black Academics Caucus, Professor Adam Haupt.